Hi, I'm Robbin Block. Welcome to Slay the Social Media Dragon. Today we're going to talk about the importance of strategy and how you can make the best use of social media without wasting too much time playing online. So what is social media good for? Well, it helps you be known in high places. When people are visiting other websites or social media sites, people find and engage with you. Social media also helps you show up in search results because Google is very interested in you getting inbound links from high authority websites that have lots of traffic or are highly engaging or are educational institutions or associations. If Google recognizes that links are coming from those websites to your website, they will help you show up and get a higher rank in search results. And then social media can help you expand your content and get you inbound links. And that also helps you rank higher. So the picture at right shows other websites and how other websites link to you. If you create a profile on those social sites, like A is Facebook, B is Twitter, C is LinkedIn or Pinterest or Instagram, then those links go inbound to you. And then Google obviously recognizes that as you're a good website to link to. And that's why we call it link juice. But it really depends on the type of business to make social media work. For example, entertainment, food, those kind of things where people really like to engage and talk to each other about things. Those are the kind of websites that can really benefit from social media. For example, we're showing a picture here of a bakery that I used to work with up on Capitol Hill in Seattle. And they used to paint rainbows and so forth in their windows, and they thought that was good attraction. But we had them redesign their window, make it more appealing, get a better A board. And that really drove more traffic than any of the social media activity they were doing. And it's not to say that social media couldn't work, but why not grab the traffic or the foot traffic that's coming by your place? It's much more immediate. So social media can work well for some businesses. But it definitely works better for some others. And some of the newer data we're seeing is that e-commerce gets the most interactions. Like if you're selling products and people share those products on social media. And there are many other ways to promote effectively beyond social media, like search engine optimization and developing content and blogging, for example. But it really depends ultimately on how you allocate your resources. You have so much time and so much money, and knowing where to use it most effectively is very important when it comes to marketing. So don't be fooled. Social media may seem free, but it takes a ton of time to make it work. It takes a lot of creativity and it takes a lot of consistency. You might get a lot of likes, but likes aren't real leads or sales. What you want is actual traffic to your website that ultimately then leads to conversion. And what we mean by conversion is people take an action that you want them to take. For example, buying something or filling out a contact form or calling you or even signing up for a newsletter. And what's really happening today, this has been the trend for quite a while now. In the early days, Facebook and Twitter and so forth, they were very happy with helping you get the word out. But now they really want you to pay, which means advertising and just posting or putting up links to things. That's what we call organic, where you're not paying anything out of pocket. And they're really favoring posting and sharing your information when you have paid for advertising. And that isn't what we're talking about today. We're just trying to say, how can you get the most out of organic social media? And is it really possible to use social media effectively when you aren't paying for the advertising element? So as I said, your resources are very limited. You're trying to run your business, you're really busy and so forth. And there are many ways to get traffic to your website. That's where we're ultimately hoping for, because once you build awareness for your business, it's very, very typical that people are going to end up at your website at some point. And that traffic is measurable. And it's very important to see how well you're doing with that. And I'll show you a Google Analytics example in a second. But just to give another example, a case study, you might say, of Trupanion, which is pet insurance. I had spoken to a person at Trupanion that deals with data and marketing and that kind of thing. And I asked him, I said, how big a role does social media play in Trupanion's business? And you would think with dogs and dog videos and pet videos and cat videos and all that kind of thing, that they would use social media all the time. But the key there was that he said, we don't really use it that much, because the biggest pain point people have, and that's what you're trying to do with marketing, is how do we use our product to solve a pain point, is at the vet. The vet is the biggest challenge. People go there and they get the bill and they're a little freaked out by the price. So the best place Trupanion could be would be to sell pet insurance, would be to put the brochures at the vet and make relationships with the vet. That's going to get them probably a bigger bang for their buck. And indeed, that's what it is that they do. They work on that relationship, not necessarily work on social media relationships. So as I said, there are many roads that lead to your website. You have on-site search engine optimization, which makes you more visible to Google. You can have referral, very important for service businesses. Advertising, which is the paid component, which is a whole nother subject. Of course, there's social media and public relations and trade shows and content and direct marketing and email and lots of other things that will help you get traffic to your website. The idea is to figure out which one is going to work. But for today, what we're talking about is how big a role should social media play in your business? How much should you invest? And here we're talking about time, or if you're paying someone else, how much do you pay a social media firm to help you? So here's just one rule of thumb that I like to play with. If you're spending 20% of your week on social media, that would be like one full day. And I bet if you looked at how much time you spent on social media, you could see it probably adds up to that many hours. So if you want to, in the comments, give me an idea of how much time you are spending on social media, if you have launched, if you are working on your marketing right now. And are you looking at your analytics data to see if you're at least getting 20% of your weekly traffic from it? So I'll give you a second to work on that. And let me know how much time you're spending there. That would be really interesting for people to take a look at. And of course, feel free to ask me questions about this as we go. So here's just one snapshot of one client on Google Analytics. And the way you look at this is you go to the acquisition component of Google Analytics, you click on overview, and then you go to channels. And you can see here, we've got 5 different ways traffic has ended up at the website. So organic means that Google has recognized keywords and content and good quality content and a whole bunch of other 200 factors they use to rank you, to list you, and people have clicked over from search traffic and ended up at your website. That's what organic search is. And you can see that far exceeds other types of traffic. We've got referral, which means they came from another website. We've got direct, which means people knew your website address, your URL, as it were. And then you have social. And Google will tell you if you even clicked on that social link, not Google. Oh yeah, Google Analytics will tell you if you click on that social link, it will even tell you the sites that the people came from. And as you can see, this is just one example, but I've seen this with so many of my clients that it's very, very little traffic relative to the other traffic. And then of course we have email marketing at the bottom. So 3.5% of 58% of the traffic. In this case, that's very little. And if a client, or you're working with a client to develop that much social media and that's all you're getting, and then you could even look at your analytics and see if it's leading to any conversion, then there's either a problem with the sites you're on, the type of social media activity you're doing, or social media just isn't working as well as some of the other things you are working on. So before you even have get started, like clicking and signing up and posting like mad and spending all that time, even though it feels like it's free, you really should have a strategy. And what do we mean by that? Well, first of all, really think about what you want social media to do for your business. Are you expecting it to build awareness, like help people find that you even exist? Are you trying to educate with it? Are you trying to encourage people to engage with you and then maybe ultimately lead to traffic at your website? Are you trying to generate leads and even sales? That is something, knowing where you want to go with it will help you use it much more effectively. And then try to quantify what those goals are. How much business are you expecting to get? How much traffic are you expecting to get from social media, particularly in relation to other ways that you're promoting? And then there could be qualitative goals, like, are people thinking more positively about my business? Are they recognizing my brand? And then really think about who you want to reach. Who do you expect to reach? It's really important to think about, is my audience using social media? How do they use it? Where do they use it? Which social sites are they using? And then you can figure out how to be where they are and get your message across to them. And then figure out, as I said, where your audience is hanging out. There's no point in being on a social site and the audience you want to reach isn't even there. And yes, everybody says everybody's on Facebook, but that isn't really true. And people use Facebook in a lot of different ways. Some people really just focus on connecting with family and friends, where others really use it to be educated about things going on in their neighborhood, for example. So understanding where your audience is, what they do on social sites, really important. And then what do you need to say in your content, in how you set up your campaigns, your storylines, ongoing? What will you say there to achieve your objective? And then don't forget, you have to remember how to measure all this stuff. So one way to measure it is by looking at the data that the social platform provides. Facebook has insights, for example, and then measure your analytics to see if people are actually landing at your website and are they converting to what it is that you want them to do. So what can social and having the right strategy really achieve for you? Well, the first thing is you want to increase the efficiency and effectiveness by choosing the right social site. If you decide to use social media to promote your business in the first place, you want to make sure that your time, and if you're paying somebody, your money, is being used efficiently and that you're getting the results that you want. So choosing the right social sites in the first place, very important. You can't do them all. It's almost impossible. There's only so many hours in the day. You can even use technology to help you share across different platforms like Instagram to Facebook, like connecting those together. But at the end of the day, it can take quite a lot of time, and you want to make sure you're getting results. You can improve targeted reach through niche sites. In other words, and we'll talk more about this, is reach people beyond Facebook, beyond Twitter, by delving into what people are really interested in. What niches can you address? And then often social media is great just for staying top of mind with existing customers, people who already know you. Typically, you use email marketing or direct mail to stay in touch with people who already know you. They're on your list. But social media is another great way to keep people engaged, to remind them to come back to you and visit you and buy from you over and over again. And then you can grow awareness by encouraging shares, which I will explain a little bit later. And then ultimately, you want to drive website traffic by amplifying content. In other words, writing articles on your blog or creating specialized content on your website, and then using the social sites to promote that content. That's a lot more effective than just posting. So the first thing is you have to choose where you're going to play. And as I said, you want to match your audience to the social site. And how do you match? Well, look for where your potential customers are located, geography, their demographics, that's the measurable stuff like their age, income, homeowner, kids, no kids, own a car, not a car, that kind of thing. What are they interested in, which is even more important? What are their psychographics? In other words, what do they like to do? What do they who do they relate to? What are they interested in? How are they politically affiliated? Those kind of things. What are they doing on the social sites? Are they active? Are they just lurking? Are they posting themselves? What's happening there? Do they share a lot? And then that affinity is very important. In other words, do they belong to groups that they easily relate to and often share with, and they have common interest? Because that, as we'll see later, really impacts the sharing component. So then once you figure out where you should play, then you can worry about what do you do there, what do you say, what gets shared, who shares it, how often, when. Those are very secondary to just being where your customer is and making that match. So the first things you have to figure out is which of these social media royalty, in other words, what are the big ones? Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. These are the big hot ones, right? Facebook is ubiquitous. LinkedIn is the business to business one. Twitter really ultimately ends up being a media play if you want to get PR attention. Instagram, as we know, is very visual, and so is Pinterest, and they each attract different audiences. Instagram even exceeding Facebook's reach at this point. So you want to claim and match them, make sure nobody else can take them for your business. But where you end up really spending most of your time becomes a matter of allocation and targeting. And then the way you make even better use of those sites, particularly ones that have groups, is to join those groups and participate there, because that gets closer to being enabling you to participate in an affinity group, having people with like interests. So here we have Seattle Foodie Group, which is huge. If you're a restaurant or a bakery or a food maker or beverage or anything like that, Seattle Foodies is a great place to hang out. And I'm sure many other cities have groups like this. And then we have more of a B2B play like the F-Bomb Breakfast Club, which is a networking group for women. And they often share referrals and things like that. So a good group to participate in if you're in the Seattle area, but I'm sure there are groups that are similar. I know of one in Chicago, for example. So you want to make sure you join those and participate, but don't be promotional. Just share and be interesting and helpful and useful. And people will share your information as well if they find it useful for their people they're connected with. So then I would contend that beyond the royal social media sites, any site can be social if it has social activities built into it, such as Q&As or multimedia content. Typically, you can always create a profile on a niche site, forums or reviews and ratings, etc. There are all types of ways that websites can be social, and there are many, many websites that have these kind of things built into it, which you wouldn't typically think of as being social, but they really are social sites at the end of the day, and you can leverage that. And there are good reasons to do so. For example, when somebody has a shared niche, like people love to build Lego buildings and Lego things, they're going to have a greater interest in it. It's going to be more engaging for people because they have a common ground. And that ultimately will lead to more qualified traffic to your website, people who are really interested in that particular topic. That is, if your website communicates about that particular topic. And when you have more qualified traffic, they stay longer at your website. And people who stay longer at a website typically lead to higher conversion. They spend more time, they read more pages, and they might even return over and over again. And that ultimately leads to higher conversion, sales, leads, signing up for newsletters, that kind of thing. So what we like to say about niche sites, they may not have as much traffic, but it's more quality traffic. So the relevance of the site is far outweighs how many visitors they get. And these are, we consider them buyers, not browsers, not people who just hang out on Facebook to hang out, but people who are in niche sites typically are looking for something specific. And that makes them more likely to buy and not just hang out and have fun. The higher affinity makes for more sharing, as I said. And if you're some kind of expert and can provide actual solutions to things, that is very useful to people as well. So it's more meaningful sharing and engagement on niche sites. So how do you find niche sites to participate in? Well, there are industry associations. You can look for online publications, social site directories. You just put in like social sites and directories and your topic, like I would put in small business. Competitive analysis, just see what your competitors are participating in. You typically can go to their website and see what they're linked to, or you can search it and see what sites show up there. Local sites like neighborhood things like West Seattle Blog in Seattle, or Nextdoor, which is national. You can look at your own inbound traffic and see if you've gotten anything from some of these sites. And then once you can also search niche social sites plus whatever keyword your subject matter is in Google, and see what comes up, and see if there's any kind of social activities you could do at those sites. At the very least, look to fill out a profile with your picture and description of your business. And sometimes they even have free directories. So you might want to sign up for those. Then engagement. What do you do on social sites? Well, it's really about the customer and not you. The more you can post things that are helpful, useful, interesting, shareable, like people think that, oh, my audience would love to learn about this. That's the kind of thing you want to do. And then you can look at your data and see how well you did with it. How many people were reached, how many engagements, how many shared, and do more the same. And we know that having images is really important and that helps. And having video especially is helpful. And the real power of organic social media is to grow awareness and to amplify content. And awareness, as we said, is about getting people to learn at least who you are and that you exist. And then to amplify content, we mean you create content on your website, whether it's a blog or a special kind of landing page or something like that. And then you share that through the social sites. So people ultimately want to come back to your website to read that content. So awareness versus engagement. So if we think about the audience in terms of awareness, what we're trying to do is reach people who don't know you yet. And engagement, they already know you. In other words, that was that kind of similar to email marketing. You want to stay top of mind with the people who are already following your page. And then your objective with building awareness is to get website traffic and have the right content to generate that website traffic, to read your content. Engagement, as I said, create top of mind awareness. And then what do you do to achieve these objectives? Well, the social tactics would be to build awareness, join groups. So people in those groups who don't know you get to know you And you just do that by commenting and posting and sharing your content even. And then engagement, you post, you drive comments, likes, and shares, and you look at your data to see which ones are driving the most. But the real magic in building awareness with social media is you get people to share. Having stuff people want to share is so critical. And how that works is then they share that to people who don't know you. So people who know you share it to people who don't know you, and they're interested in what you are saying. And then hopefully the goal is that they end up at your website, and you can measure that traffic by looking at your analytics. How many people have ended up at my website from the social site? So how do you post things that people want to share? So on the left, we can see here people that were reached because there was a nice post. This is one of my clients, by the way, that carves wood signs, Watson's Wooden Words. And he is very busy doing great job carving signs for all kinds of people. And as you can see, there's a real story to tell on the left-hand side here. He's, it was a memorial kind of thing. And he put in some description, and there's a real personal element to it. And he reached 974 people organically, which I think is pretty good. And then he had 151 engagements. And so people were interacting with his work. If we looked at his data, we could probably see how many people actually shared it. But then you look at the one on the right where he just posted one of the signs that he made, and it didn't get the same results at all. I mean, he only got 10 engagements because it's kind of self-promotional. Whereas the one on the left is really telling a story about what he did for someone else. And the one on the right is like, look at us, we just made a sign. And the imagery is not as engaging. So you can see the real difference there. So you want to pay attention to that. And the other thing I want to mention, what I discovered some new data from Social Bakers. You can see the where I got the data in the bottom. It's a free report you can get, the Social Media Trends Report, and it's very recent, is that video has experienced a huge surge on Twitter. But what really important and a huge opportunity is that Facebook Live, this is the live streaming tool you can use, had an 85% increase in usage, and it maintains very high engagement. So for those of you who want to do live video, it's a huge opportunity because it's only about 1% of posts right now. And you can do all kinds of things. You can broadcast a conversation. You could do a performance if you're in music. You can do a Q&A session or a virtual event in real time. And then the community can join the conversation, ask you questions. You can make it really interactive. So I would encourage you to use that link below and check it out if you're the type of business that could benefit from doing a live stream and really generating engagement with your audience. And of course, you'd have to promote the fact that you are doing this. And you can do that by promoting events on Facebook, and you can promote it on your website and use many other ways to promote to get more engagement with that kind of thing. And then hopefully you can use that to get more traffic to your website for people to learn more or to get a free download. You can encourage people to do that. And then ultimately, hopefully it will end up driving people to maybe being interested in hiring you or purchasing one of your products. So here's one way you can amplify your content with what I call a recipe, a 1 through 5 recipes. So Quora is a question and answer website, and you can develop a whole audience there by simply going to Quora and look for questions that people are asking. And then if they are questions that you are qualified to answer, you could create website content to answer that very specific question. And then you go back to Quora and you answer related questions and give a little piece or a little teaser about what it is you have created a longer form answer for, and then link that to your website content that you just created. So that could be a way for you to generate an audience on Quora. Now, I have another client that makes dog leashes, and we did something similar where we did a search for what kind of questions people were asking. And one place you can do that is go to a website called answerthepublic.com. That's answerthepublic.com. And you could look for the questions that people are asking and figure out what is good for you to answer, what are you qualified to answer, and then create content on your website. So we created this page that answered the question, how long should my dog leash be? And currently that page is getting more traffic than the website's homepage. And you could go to roughgrip.com, ruffgrip.com, and look for that content yourself. I believe there's a link in the footer. And that is the content we created for this client to generate a whole bunch of traffic. Now, granted, that doesn't even have anything to do with social media per se, but we then can amplify that content to social media to drive even more traffic because we know it's something people want to know. So that is most of what I wanted to talk about today. There's a lot to discuss about social media. I wanted to leave a lot of time so we could talk about your questions about social media, and we have time to answer it in chat. I encourage you to share with me the sites you're using. And what I really want to know is, if you are using social media, is it working for you? Are you looking at your website traffic? Are you getting increased traffic from social media? And is it converting? So I'd love to hear anybody share with me their success stories on social media. And we're not talking about paid social here, but organic traffic. So while you're coming up with those questions, I also want to discuss with you some low cost or free tools you can use to manage social media, because as we know, it takes a ton of time. So first of all, the big one, analytics.google.com. This is Google Analytics. You absolutely should sign up for it. You should connect it to your website. And if you haven't, make sure your webmaster does it for you. It's not a big deal. And all the major platforms, Shopify, WordPress, Weebly, Wix, etc., they all make it easy for you to make that connection so you can really track your data. I can't emphasize that enough. Another place to go for free social tools is socialbakers.com. And they had that study I told you about. So if you want to learn more about social media, there's lots of data there, lots of free information, and I encourage you to check out their free tools. And then buffer.com will allow you to set up posts and schedule posts. There's a free version and a paid version, and it's a way for you to do a whole bunch of social things all at once. And I believe it even allows you to track how well your social activity is doing. Another fun tool I like to use and integrate it with Buffer is called QQUUU.co. And it will help you find social information or interesting stories and all kinds of stuff to share. And then you can hook it up to Buffer so it shares it automatically. And then there's Hootsuite, that is a big Twitter tool, but it tracks and allows you to post other things as well. There's mention.com for tracking, sendable.com, another one that gives you more of a comprehensive management tool, which is fairly low cost. And I haven't technically tried it yet, but I keep meaning to get into it and help my clients work on it, is sociality.io. And there are many, many other free and low cost tools that you should check out. And then finally, try to integrate some of these tools together, like Facebook and Instagram, as I mentioned, will help you save some time as well. So that's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and very happy to answer any questions you have in chat. And before we close out, I just want to encourage you to make sure you have a good strategy and figure out, is it really worth it? So asking the right questions. Which social sites are driving your traffic? Look at your data and figure that out. And then which ones actually have led you to conversion? Because there's no point in getting all that traffic and then you get no results from it. And then if you're finding you're not getting the data that you want, are you choosing the wrong sites to participate in? Or are you just not posting well? Or at the end of the day, maybe social media is not something you should be spending all your time on, and you should look at ways to improve other activities, marketing, digital marketing activities that get people to your website. And then you can figure out which sites you should keep or toss, or is social media right to begin with? And then are you missing groups or niche sites that you could be participating in to encourage or reach more people in a more meaningful way? So that's what you do with a good strategy. How do you follow up on that strategy? And how do you make social media actually work? So thank you very much. Here's my contact information. If you like the presentation, always interested in getting Google reviews, or if anybody needs a speaker for their group, happy to talk about social media or many, many other marketing activities that I know about. I've been in marketing for decades, so can cover many, many topics. So once again, thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing your Q&A.